The night air over Dragonstone tasted of iron and rain. Clouds crouched low against the black sea, gravid with a storm that refused to break, and every unseen swell beyond the castle walls murmured of sleepless depths. Jon Snow, still awkward with the weight of the name Aegon Targaryen, stood alone upon the windswept battlements, cloak snapping like a banner behind him. He felt smaller than the island, smaller than the thunderhead smothering moon and stars, and yet something fierce and treacherously hopeful coiled in his chest like a waking dragon. Footfalls echoed. Soft, deliberate. Tyrion emerged from the stairwell, lantern cupped in one hand, illumination trembling over ancient stone. A salt-sharp gust threatened to snuff the flame, but Tyrion shielded it, eyes narrowing against spindrift. "I thought you'd be abed," he said, voice pitched to carry over the wind without breaking its hush. "I tried," Jon answered. "It felt wrong to sleep when the realm trembles." "The realm has trembled every season since you and I first met," Tyrion observed. He huddled into his lion-red cloak, climbed the parapet until he stood beside Jon and stared east where dawn would come. "Yet somehow, you remained surprised." Jon exhaled through his nose, a white plume in the gloom. "Not surprised, just waited." He folded gloved hands upon the stone lip. "Tell me again, Tyrion." "My parents believed in something called Trial-by-Dragonfire. In Valyria, before the doom, the highest form of judgment bespoke the gods' favor." Tyrion's lantern cast his scarred features in molten gold. The accused would stand before a dragon. If burned, guilt was indisputable. If fire did them no harm, the innocence of their blood, or the blessing of divinity, was accepted beyond question. "Nemts. A cruel test," Jon murmured. "Cruel, yes, but swift, conclusive, and steeped in pageantry. And more importantly for those who ruled, it underlined the singularity of dragonlords. Only a Targaryen could hope for mercy from flame." Jon gazed northward, though nothing lay that way but darkness. "I am half Targaryen, half Stark. Thousands have died because Daenerys thinks blood alone warrants obedience. If I invoked the old rite, what would it prove? Then, that the mother of dragons is not the only ember the doom failed to quench," Tyrion said. "The realm recalls wildfire beneath the Red Keep, fathers buried in snow upon the wall, children screaming at the gates of King's Landing, memories stitched with fire. If the North's chosen king stood in dragonflame and walked away unburnt, small folk might whisper that the gods have chosen a gentler dragon to sit the Iron Throne." Jon's jaw worked, muscles tightening. "I do not want the throne." "I believe you," Tyrion said pensively. "But thrones often want us." For a span they were quiet, save the wind and a distant rumble like a kettle drum. Drogon shifting upon the beach, unsettled by the brewing storm. His guttural yawns reverberated through Dragonstow's belly. Tyrion lifted the lantern, studying Jon's face. "What haunts you, truly?" Jon closed his eyes. "I know what I saw at King's Landing. Children turned to ash in the streets. Mothers roasted at their doors. Daenerys told me it was mercy. Mercy for future generations who would live free of tyrants. But I have carried mercy in my hands. It is not charred bone and melting stone. I cannot follow her down that road. And now, then challenge her." Jon's eyelids fluttered open. "Challenge her. Trial by Dragonfire." Tyrion's voice dropped. "Half dare, half plea. You cannot sway her with counsel, nor quell the dread that gathers behind her each time she says, 'Liberation.' But an older magic binds her pride. She is the Unburnt. If you prove you share that mantle, she must see that her destiny is not singular." "Then no and." Jon laughed, bereft of mirth. "And if the fire consumes me, then the Seven Kingdoms lose an honest man, and she gains one more corpse to justify her war." Tyrion's shoulders slumped. "I do not like the odds, but I like the alternative less." Another silence, brittle. Jon watched a gull wheel between turrets, its pale wings lightning lit for a heartbeat, before dusk swallowed it. "I will think on it," he said. By morning, the sea wore a steely calm. Grey worm drilled unsullied in the bailey, their spears striking shields with flinty rhythm. Inside the basalt corridors of Dragonstone, courtiers whispered. Those left alive after the sack of King's Landing, those who tried to read their queen's moods like a sky of knives glinting beneath sunbreak. Daenerys Stormborn stood at the map table, palm laid upon the carved rivers of Westeros. Her hair, silver gold, was bound in intricate braids. Her eyes, pale amethyst, reflected candlelight like twin shards of dawn. Missandei's absence lingered around her like a phantom ache. Ser Jorah's memory clung to her pauldron clasps. Only Drogon's shadow stretched without doubt across her thoughts. Tyrion entered, bowed stiffly. "Your Grace," he said. She did not look up. "The Northmen leave at dusk. Jon marches them to Winterfell to secure the Vale's allegiance. So I'm told." Tyrion measured his breath. "I have spoken with Lord Snow." "King Snow?" She corrected coldly. "He refuses the crown but leads like a king nonetheless. Titles concern him less than conscience." Daenerys' gaze lifted. Flame and frost intermingled. Conscience burns away when ash clogs the lungs. "I saw the future of tyranny and ended it." "Ended?" Tyrion's voice splintered. "Or replaced it." Dong, deep bells reverberated through the keep. A messenger hurried in, cloak soaked from spray, helm tucked beneath arm. He knelt. "Forgive intrusion, Your Grace, Lord." He hesitated, correcting. "King Jon Snow seeks audience." Daenerys' lashes flickered. "Summon him." The messenger fled. Tyrion remained, heart thudding. Jon arrived still cloaked in night black, hair damp, eyes ringed in sleepless shadow. He bowed. "Your Grace." Daenerys did not bid him rise. Her palm remained on the map's heart. Dragonstone's latitude. "You leave for Winterfell." "I ride at dusk if you grant it," he said evenly. She traced a finger northward. "Winterfell stands because I answered your plea for aid against the dead. Now, you would abandon me." "I would never abandon the realm." "Nor would I." She stood straighter. "What do you seek, truly, Jon Snow?" He inhaled. "My name is Aegon Targaryen. By blood I share the burden you claim." The words filled the chamber like rising floodwater. "No kingdom will kneel if fear is the price of peace. So I propose an ancient rite, older than the Seven. Trial-by-Dragonfire." Tyrion's chest concaved. He saw Daenerys' pupils flare, saw hope and terror duel in her ribcage. "You wish Drogon to judge us both?" Her tone was icicle sharp. Jon shook his head. "Judge me alone. If the flame consumes me, my doubt dies with me, and the North will bend the knee. If I walk unburnt, the realm will know two fires run in Targaryen veins. Then we must choose together how to wield that power, without charnel houses." "Men?" "Then?" Tyrion dared not breathe. Grey Worm had drifted inside, hand upon dagger hilt. Daenerys' throat worked. Perhaps she swallowed the word impossible. Instead she said, "Why would you risk everything?" "Because everything is already at risk," Jon answered. She circled the table. When she reached him, their breaths mingled, salt-sweet. "I have been called the Unburnt since I stepped from Khal Drogo's pyre. Flame is my mother tongue. Dragons are my children. Do you think them traitors enough to spare you?" "I think dragons know truth." A flicker, pain, pride? Her features softened, then hardened again into unyielding granite. "So be it. At sunrise tomorrow we meet upon the black sands beneath Dragonstone. If fire licks your bones clean, your followers shall swear fealty or die. If you remain unburnt," she pursed her lips, "we will speak of mercy." The meeting ended as abruptly as the storm that never came. Tyrion caught Jon in the corridor. "You move faster than ravens." "I said I would think on it," Jon replied. "I thought. There's thinking, and there's hurling oneself at a dragon." Jon paused beside a wrought iron sconce, amber flames fluttering across his face. "Every path leads to Dragonfire. Better to meet it on my feet than watch the world burn on its knees." Tyrion pressed palms to his temples. "I once begged you to lie for the good of the realm. Now I beg you to survive for the same." Jon laid a steady hand on Tyrion's shoulder. Look after the people if I fail. I intend to look after them when you succeed." That night, candles gleamed through the hallway outside the chamber where Jon prepared. Arya appeared as silent as winter's edge, eyes like pale smoke. She closed the door behind her, leaning against it. "You mean to let a dragon breathe on you?" Jon smiled wryly. "Hello, little sister." "I'm not little," she said, though her voice cracked faintly. He gestured to the hearth. They sat cross-legged upon a faded stark banner draped before the fire. Arya studied the blaze. When father spoke of justice, it was always the sword, never the torch. In Valyria, swords were forged in dragonfire. For them, flame and steel were one. She tucked hair behind an ear. "I watched Daenerys at King's Landing. She was beautiful and terrible, like a frozen river about to shatter. I don't trust beautiful things that can kill so many by accident." "It was an accident," Jon said softly. Arya's throat bobbed. "I traveled beyond Braavos, learned at faces and shadows. But I never learned how to stop someone determined to burn cities." She swallowed again. "If you die tomorrow, I'll kill her." Jon's eyes glistened. He reached, squeezed her forearm. "No vows of vengeance. If I fall, protect Sansa, protect the North." Arya's smile was all knives. "That I can promise." She rose, smoothed her tunic, and for an instant, her composure faltered. Swiftly, she bent and pressed her forehead to Jon's, the ghost of a kiss upon his brow. Then she opened the door and vanished into shadow. Sleep eluded him. Ghost paced the room. White fur turned gold by hearthlight, crimson eyes reflecting every flicker. Jon knelt, buried fingers in thick coat. "You'll stay back," he murmured. The direwolf whined, then rested colossal head against Jon's chest. Tomorrow Dragonstone's shore would host a spectacle no Septon had blessed in centuries. Trial-by-Dragonfire. A duel without swords, a prayer without words. Was he immune? He recalled Longclaw's hilt searing his palm when he braced it under a lantern's flare. He recalled the icy sting of the Night King's touch. But fire? He had felt its kiss at the Battle of the Bastards, torches against cold. He had no proof it could not kill him. But there was the memory, the faintest sliver, of standing within black smoke when he was a child at Winterfell, staring at charred timber after a stable blaze. Not a burn upon him then, while servants bore bandages. Was that chance? He did not know. He did know the realm could not endure another purge of liberation. So he clung to one truth. He was his mother's son, as well as his father's. Ice and fire both. Perhaps they canceled one another. Perhaps they made something new. The horizon paled beyond shutters. Night's last breath. Jon rose, donned boiled leather, padded tunic, and a surcoat of stark gray embroidered with Targaryen red. The garment looked uneasy upon itself, seams arguing, but that was fitting. At his hip hung no sword. Dragonfire judged alone. He and Ghost descended to the courtyard. Northmen gathered with grim faces. Unsullied formed silent ranks. Targaryen banners snapped overhead. Red three-headed dragons writhing upon black. But opposite them stark direwolves howled upon winter white, and between those standards blew a salt wind heavy with augury. Tyrion waited by the gate. He handed Jon a water skin. "Wet your throat. Speak boldly." Jon drank. "Tea. Keep the men orderly. If fire slays me, they must bend the knee at once." "They will," Tyrion promised. "I may require wine." Jon squeezed his hand. Together, they walked the ramp down to the beach. There, black sand stretched like a void to the tide line. Drogon crouched upon a basalt outcrop, wings half-mantled. His eyes gleamed ember orange, steam huffed from nostrils. He watched Jon approach as a cat watches a moth. Curious, ill-tempered, ready to pounce, Daenerys stood in front of her dragon, armored in scaled leather, the color of scorched twilight. Her hair shone, her brow bore no circlet, yet she looked every inch a queen. Grey Worm flanked her. Spear reversed but ready. Soldiers formed an oval perimeter. Unsullied shoulder to shoulder, Northmen beyond. Davos lingered with them, maned hand fidgeting at the knots of his cloak. Gendry and Tormund stood as well, though Tormund muttered that the south was madder than any giant's tail. Jon halted 10 paces from Daenerys. Seabirds, unsettled, wheeled overhead. The surf's hush receded, as though the world held its breath. Daenerys inclined her head. "Are you prepared?" "Yes," he said, voice steady. He resisted the urge to glance at the men behind him. Their faith could not bolster him now. She lifted a hand without turning. Drogon responded instantly, sliding down the rock, claws scoring deep grooves. He prowled to her side, towering. Heat radiated from him in waves that made banners tremble. Daenerys stepped clear. To those who watch, remember this moment. Flame does not lie. Jon swallowed sea salt. He strode forward until Drogon's breath gusted against his hair, rank with smoke and raw meat. He met the dragon's serpent gaze, molten gold and mourning. "Dracarys," Daenerys whispered. Drogon's chest expanded, translucent veins pulsing beneath ebon scales. Jon felt sound before he heard it. The deep furnace rumble of a world forging itself anew. He closed his eyes, raised his chin. Flame burst forth, a tidal bloom of orange-white. It struck Jon like the fist of a vengeful god, enveloping him. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Some dropped to knees, others shouted prayers. Tyrion's lantern shattered in his tightened fist. Davos bit down on a curse. Arya's hand darted to the dagger at her belt. Fire roared, pealed, crashed like living thunder against basalt and sea spray. Drogon poured his fury for what felt an age. When the torrent ceased, steam shrieked upward, where sea touched superheated sand. Smoke coiled, parted. Jon Snow stood, cloak edges glowing, leather sparkling with molten flecks that slid off like tears of ruby. His hair, though singed at the tips, had not burned. His eyes opened, gray meeting the dawn. A hush ripe with awe settled over soldiers of north and south alike. Jon exhaled. A curl of smoke drifted from his lips. Daenerys' heart rattled against her corselet. She stepped forward, disbelief vying with wonder. "Impossible," she breathed. Jon took a step, sand crunching glassy beneath him. He walked until he stood before her, flames reflecting like twin crowns in their eyes. "I am not your enemy," he said, voice hoarse but clear. "Nor are you mine. But rule forged in fear will break. Share the burden. Let the realm be healed rather than scourged." "Then?" Tears welled in Daenerys' gaze, but pride crushed them before they fell. She looked upon her kneeling army, unsullied, Dothraki scattered like desert seeds, Northmen uncertain but resolute. She looked at the city across the sea, whose ruins still scented her dreams with ash. Slowly, she sank to one knee, not in surrender, but in recognition. "Let the world see." She whispered so. Only he and the dawn could hear. That fire does not choose sides, it reveals hearts. Jon lowered, offering a hand. She accepted. Together they rose, 2 embers in the wind. Behind them, Drogon lifted his head and uttered a reverberating cry. Not victory nor defeat, but something older. Acknowledgement of a bond rekindled in living flame. Word of the trial flew faster than ravens, carried on sailors' tongues and merchants' boasts. Small folk in the Reach whispered of the man with ice in his veins and fire in his breath. Lords in the Westerlands drank warily, toasting unseen tides that might upend their gold-stacked thrones. In Old Town the Archmaesters hauled dusty volumes, hunting for precedents. In the Eyrie, sweet Robin Arryn stared wide-eyed at dancers of molten glass conjured by the tale's teller. But in Winterfell, Sansa Stark read the Raven's account by hearthlight. Lips pressed white, a slow, measured smile appeared. "The king in the north," she murmured to the empty hall, "has found a crown fiercer than steel. Days passed on Dragonstone as committees convened. Tyrion labored over charters, blending Stark pragmatism with Targaryen promise. Grey Worm drilled but did not smile. Unsullied patrolled ramparts beside northern scouts. Small alliances germinated. A Dothraki teaching a Stark the curved blade dance. A smith from White Harbor sharing ale with a sailor who'd once ferried the mother of dragons across the narrow sea. Yet peace was a wisp, easily scattered. In the war room, Jon and Daenerys debated each clause. She demanded dismantled houses that betrayed her. He demanded clemency for children who'd never held a sword. She would not compromise on liberating slaves from across the world. He would not sacrifice Westeros' fragile harvests for distant wars. Their voices cracked against stone, yet at dusk they shared bread and silence beside the hearth, recognizing in each other a wound shaped like duty. One evening, lightning spidered across the horizon. Daenerys watched from her balcony, Drogon roosting above, wings twitching at every flash. Jon joined her. Storms finally come. She did not look at him. I have lived through storms unending. Sometimes I fear calm more. You fear losing momentum. I fear stagnation. Her fingers tightened around the parapet until knuckles paled. Do you know what it is to chase a destiny since birth and find it multiplying before you? Every time I grasp purpose, new paths bloom like dragonstone orchids, beautiful and poisonous. He leaned beside her, their shoulders nearly touching, yet a gulf remained. I do not know destiny. I know choice. He gestured at the sky. The storm chooses to break or pass. We choose how to shelter those beneath it. She turned at last, eyes reflecting distant firelight. And what if I choose wrong? Then I will remind you. And if you choose wrong, then remind me. Wind caught her hair, whipping silver strands across his cheek. A raindrop struck her brow. She shivered, perhaps from the chill, perhaps from something else. The first peace council met in the old painted chamber, repurposed from Stannis' tenure. Banners had been stripped, maps unfurled across trestle tables. Lords and ladies summoned. Some arriving uninvited filled the hall with arguments. Yara Greyjoy propped boots upon an oil lamp, declaring the Iron Islands would not bow to any dragon, scorched or otherwise. Gendry, newly legitimized as Baratheon of Storm's End, countered that unity after Cersei's fall demanded trust, not plunder. Ser Davos, acting hand, mediated while Tyrion scribbled notes. Varys, returned like a wraith from the ashes of betrayal, offered whispers of spies in Essos, praising the new twin dragons at Dragonstone. But across the narrow sea, forces stirred. Triarchs of Volantis feared a stabilized Westeros would threaten their slave markets. Warlocks of Korth dreamed of stealing Dragonfire. A sellsword known as the Titan's Fist boasted he would slay the Wolf Dragon King for a purse of diamonds. Jon watched maps, seeing not colored inks but living bodies behind each banner. Daenerys watched him, seeing the same weight that once hollowed her. Night after night, they worked until candles puddled wax. Sometimes she laughed, swift, startled, as though memory had forgotten the shape of joy. Sometimes he smiled, softer than snowfall. And the world, fragile as new ice, held. Rumor reached Dragonstone. A group of lords loyal to House Lannister and embittered Reachmen plotted revolt in the ruins of Casterly Rock. They hoarded scorpions salvaged from King's Landing's rubble, monstrous crossbows meant to kill dragons. Daenerys paced the solar, fury tightening her stride. Let us fly to the rock. Drogon will melt their arrogance before nightfall. Jon stood with arms folded. If we bring fire again so soon, the realm will fear neither of us have changed. They will fear rebellion. They must believe rebellion unnecessary. Tyrion cleared his throat. Castellan Dernet still controls Casterly Rock for the crown. He can negotiate. Negotiations will take weeks, Daenerys snapped. Each dawn gives conspirators new allies. Jon's voice cooled. Then let me sail with a force of Northmen and Unsullied. We will show the rebels that knighthood stands beside freedmen. No dragons." Daenerys' gaze flicked to Drogon basking below the window. "He will not understand why I leave him behind." "He will feel your trust," Jon said. "And so will I." Something shifted, like a hinge old as empires creaking open. Daenerys exhaled. "Go then. Take the Unsullied. Grey Worm will command in your stead." Jon frowned. "He will not leave your side. I trust Grey Worm." She asserted. "I trust you." Her lips curved. "Bittersweet. Bring me the rock without flames, and the realm may believe peace possible." He nodded, reluctant admiration glimmering. That night they spoke little. At dawn he boarded a sleek galley named Winter's Breath, sails of dove gray emblazoned with twin emblems. The stark direwolf haloed by a ring of crimson dragonfire. Waves parted. Gulls cried. Ghost leapt aboard with a shake of frost-white fur. Daenerys watched from the battlements until ship and wolf became specks upon silver water. Only when they vanished did she turn away, heart hammering like Drogon's wings. The voyage south was swift. Sea breezes carried faint warmth, but Jon felt chill. Each lapping crest whispered of wildfire's echo, each creak of deckboard of unborn wars. Grey Worm drilled the Unsullied at dawn and dusk. Between times he spoke little, but sometimes his gaze softened when Northmen shared crusty bread or a bawdy tale. On the 10th morning, Casterly Rock rose ahead, a broken lion silhouette against bruise-colored cliffs. Smoke smudged the sky from forge fires within. Jon called council in the captain's cabin. Maps rolled open, pins marking tunnels Tywin once boasted impassable, yet that Tyrion had used to breach the rock. Jon traced approaches by sea and land. "We do not besiege," he told the officers. "We demonstrate. Let them see stark banners alongside unsullied shields. Let them hear terms of pardon if they lay down arms." "And if they want?" asked Ser Jorah's cousin Samwell Rivers, a rangy knight sworn to House Manderley. "Then we hold the bay, cut off supplies, but do not fire the rock. We wait." Grey Worm's expression unreadable. Unsullied obey. That afternoon they anchored beyond Scorpion Range. Raven darts soared to the ramparts bearing Jon's seal and an offer. Amnesty for all who surrendered. Trial by Dragonfire for leaders if they insisted upon blood. Within the walls, lords argued. Some scoffed at a dragonless wolf's ultimatum, others recalled whispers of indestructible skin. 2 nights later, 6 war galleys flying the Kraken of the Iron Islands arrived. Iyaris promised to Jon. Her decks were stacked with barrels of pitch, but she held torch unlit. The rebels faltered. Taco Nestoris of the Iron Bank landed with ledger in hand, reminding debtors that new kings collect old dues more eagerly than dead ones. When grain stores waned, the fortress captain sought parley. Jon met him upon a barren stretch below the sea gate. "I give you peace," he said, "and the Queen's word. No dragons will hunt those who swear fealty." "Words can change," the captain muttered. "Stone remembers," Jon answered, glancing at scarred cliffs. After 3 more days, the Red Lion lowered. Gates creaked open. Northmen and Unsullied entered in peace. Scorpions were dismantled. Stolen gold minted into wages for masons to rebuild orphanages razed in the war. Atop the highest tower, the direwolf and dragonfire banner unfurled in the sea wind. But peace seldom travels alone. Suspicion follows. In the shadows of Lannisport alleyways, whispers accused Jon of plotting to supplant Daenerys. Some said he possessed wild magic, that he could turn dragons against their mother. Others claimed the queen would soon wed her nephew and birth a line of sorcerer kings. When ravens carried these rumors back to Dragonstone, Daenerys paced moonlit corridors. Every maw of shadow seemed to house Viserys' screams, Khal Drogo's silence, Hosea's betrayal. How many times had promises shattered beneath her feet? She summoned Drogon, soared across moon-silvered sea, arriving above Casterly Rock before dawn. Her silhouette eclipsed stars. Her dragon's roar cracked every roasting heart within. When she landed in the courtyard, Jon strode forward, ghost at heel. Wary glares rippled between Northmen and rebels. Daenerys dismounted, cloak whipping like wings. Jon inclined his head. "You came quickly. Rumor travels faster than ravens," she replied. Her gaze swept the walls. No blackened stone, no corpses. Children peeked from behind archways, eyes wide but unafraid. She exhaled. "You did as you promised." He opened a palm, offering the battered signet of the fortress captain, proof of surrender. "Our enemies may yet return, but for the moment they are adversaries, not corpses." She closed his fingers around the ring. "The realm will remember this, and we will remember it together." She paused. "Walk with me." They walked high upon the rock's curtain wall. Wind tousled her hair. He smelled salt and smoke, but not ash. Below, the tide hammered stone. A relentless sermon. "I have burned many to build a better world," she said, gaze distant. "I don't know if the tally will ever balance." He studied her profile. "Let me help you weigh the scales." She turned, and for an instant, vulnerability lay bare. An unarmored heart upon a battlefield. Then she nodded once, a queen's gesture. Grey Worm found them at sunset. A raven had arrived. The Volantine Triarchs massed a fleet, intent on punishing Westeros for interfering with slave markets. They had hired the Golden Company remnants and promised coin to warlocks of Korth. Jon and Daenerys locked eyes. "If we fight them together," he said, "we choose the battlefields, and the civilians we spare." She placed a hand against his chest, feeling the steady hammer of two bloodlines. "Then we shall be flame and shield," she whispered. "Not sword and scourge." On the eve of their departure to meet the Volantine fleet, Tyrion approached them with parchments inked in sleepless hours. A charter naming Jon Snow as Prince Consort, equal sovereign of the Seven Kingdoms, until a great council could determine succession unshadowed by fear. Jon balked. Daenerys laughed. But both understood politics demanded symbols. Together they rewrote the charter, the Dragon Wolf Accord. It did not name Jon King nor Daenerys Empress. It named them Guardians of Realm and Rebuilder of Realms, titles that bound them to service, not dominion. And it declared that any ruler henceforth must pass a test of mercy, not dragonfire, but witness of those whom their edicts most endangered. At dawn, Drogon swept over Winter's Breath and Yara's Krakens, shadowing decks with promise. Northmen cheered. Unsullied raised silent spears. Jon stood beside Daenerys on Drogon's back as he took flight. Sea and sky spread before them. Vast, merciless, waiting for names of new heroes and new tyrants. Below, Ghost barked at the roaring heavens, white against dark decks. Daenerys leaned close to Jon. "Do you fear the fire now?" "I carry it," he answered. "And I carry you." And with a crack of wings, they soared toward horizon's edge, where ships gathered like storm clouds. Ahead lay war, but perhaps not ruin. Ahead lay trials, but perhaps no more pyres of innocence. For the realm had seen a man unburnt, a queen unbroken, and believed at last that flame could forge hope rather than ashes. The sea that bore them southward lay slick and pewter beneath a gathering veil of stormlight, each wave a silent shiver, sliding beneath hulls drawn taut with canvas. Winter's Breath led the column, her wolf standard snapping against a wind that smelled of ozone and distant citrus groves, scents that whispered of the summer sea and of Volantis beyond. Lanterns nested in iron brackets cast a muted glow upon deck and rigging, helloing the damp silhouettes of sailors who spoke in hushed cadence as though any loud word might shatter the fragile truce that bound stark and unsullied, Ironborn and Stormlander. Jon paced the quarterdeck at dawn's edge, counting reef points stitched into the mainsail, but his thoughts were miles ahead among enemy masts and the red laughing mouths of warlocks' braziers. Gulls wheeled overhead, crying like orphaned children. At his heels Ghost stalked, albino specter against tar-black planks. Head low, ears keen for sounds Jon could not hear. Grey Worm ascended from below with the measured grace of a man who had learned to balance the weight of freedom upon shoulders used to chains. He paused at the helm spokes as the helmsman bowed. From beneath his helm straps his eyes found Jon's. "Half day until we sight the stepstones," he said. Voice flat, but not unkind. Jon nodded. Scouts report a Volantine vanguard anchored behind Black Cliff Isle. 10 Dromans and a company of cell sails pledged to the Triarchs. Noun. Grey Worm's brows dipped, a frown etched by habit. Cell sails break easily if one head is removed. Breaking them is not our first aim. Jon's gaze drifted toward the lee rail where a knot of Ironborn were hauling casks. He lowered his voice. If we rout every ship we meet, the Triarchs will tighten fists. Better to turn their captains unsure, their sailors doubtful. Fear is brittle once cracked. Grey Worm considered, then inclined his head. Unsullied, obey. Across the deck, Arya unlaced a coil of rope from the belaying pins, testing its give. She wore leathers the hue of autumn loam, and twin blades glimmered at her hips, needles slender as a promise, and the dragon-glass dagger Jon had gifted her before the long night. Seeing her brother's face drawn beneath the hood of command, she crossed to them. "When we round the stepstones we'll be in pirate water," she said, scanning mastheads. Smaller craft could dart from any shadow shoal. "I'll keep an eye on the mainsail. If halyards jam at the wrong moment, we'll lose wind in a chase." Jon touched her arm, grateful. "Your eyes are sharper than my memories of these currents." He turned to Grey Worm. "Post lookouts fore and aft. If warlocks of Qarth truly ride with the Volantines, they might conjure illusions. False galleys fashioned from mist, fire blooming where no torch burns. We'll need steel and skepticism in equal measure." Ghost huffed, nose wrinkling as though scenting incense on the breeze. The dire wolf's hackles rippled. Behind them, the brass-flooded door to the captain's cabin swung wide. Tyrion emerged with a ledger clamped beneath one arm and a pewter tankard in the other. Salt crusted his curls. Sleeplessness darkened the hollows around mismatched eyes. "I have reached the cheerful conclusion," he announced, mounting 3 steps to join them, "that mathematics is less forgiving than dragons. Our stores of hardtack will last a fortnight if rationed. The casks of fresh water," he rattled his tankard, "somewhat longer, provided we don't meet storms that snap spars and drain barrels overboard." One wonders whether diplomacy might, for once, prove cheaper than victory. "And until diplomacy is victory," Jon said, played at a slower tempo. "And yet it still demands coin," Tyrion muttered. "Volantis measures honor by the pound." He took a draught, grimaced. "Do we know whether their fleet sails under the Tiger or the Elephant? Makes a difference. Elephants bargain, tigers devour." Before Jon could answer, a call came from the foretop. "Sail off the starboard bow." Single mast, Latin-colored canvas. All eyes lifted. A cutter slipped between wave crests, its hull painted umber with stripes the color of dried blood. The Tiger banner. Tyrion sighed. Grey Worm issued terse commands. Unsullied formed spear ranks along the starboard rail. Shields interlocked. The Ironborn loosened hand axes, and Stormlanders fitted shafts to crossbows. Jon raised a hand. "Hold." The cutter altered course. Flag halyard creaking. Instead of closing, it skimmed parallel, maintaining respectful distance. A figure on the small vessel's forecastle brandished a yellow kerchief, parley. No siege scorpion glinted amid coils of rope. No archers lined her rails. Jon nodded to Grey Worm, who signaled acknowledgement. A skiff was lowered. Jon descended with Tyrion, Davos Seaworth, and 2 unsullied guards. Arya remained above, vigilant, needle drawn across her thigh. The sea slapped froth against the skiff's prow as Davos rowed, the oarsman's rhythm easy despite his missing finger. Wind salted beards and face, but the sky remained an iron lid, threatening storms yet holding them in abeyance. When they came alongside the cutter, a gangplank jutted. Jon mounted first. The deck smelled of tar and ginger root. The latter hung in braided clusters from the aft rail. charms against scurvy and sorcery both. Captain Valaro of Old Volantis met them. His robes, a voluminous affair of orange silk embroidered with black tigers, spoke of merchant pride more than martial resolve. Behind him 2 sailors held amphorae stoppered with resin, another bore parchment sealed in crimson wax. To the wolf dragon and his wise brother of tongues, Valaro greeted, inclining with flourish. The Triarchs extend terms. They desire no war upon open sea, where trade winds bleed profit. They propose a parley upon Parrot Islet, 2 days hence, to discuss restitution for the sack of the slave barracks at King's Landing, and assurances regarding free trade. Bow, Tyrion murmured, restitution meaning tribute no doubt. Jon regarded the amphorae. And these? Gifts of peace, Valaro said quickly. Spiced wine from the 100 Arcs, and ink brewed with saffron, finer than any maester's black. His smile curved like a hook. May we say you accept their invitation? Davos cleared his throat. And what guarantee do we have that Parrot Islet isn't lined with concealed ballistae? Valaro spread hands. The Triarchs are traitors. They possess coin enough to buy caution. Should your queen spurn them, they will turn caution into cannons, and every harbor from Lys to Gulltown will tremble beneath blockade. Jon spoke slow. We will attend, but under conditions. No more than 3 Triarch galleys anchored, weapons unstrung, and the warlocks remain in their own ships. The merchant captain tapped chin, weighing. I will carry your words. May I deliver their scroll in good faith? He held the sealed parchment toward Jon. Jon accepted, breaking wax. Ink danced across vellum in the fluid script of Old Volantis, but the heartbeat of the message was simple. The Triarchs demanded an indemnity of gold, timber, and dragonfire casks should any exist. They requested free passage for Volantine slavers to the Summer Isles, a resumption of spice tariffs favorable to Old Volantis, and recognition of Tiger Triarch hegemony in the disputed lands. Jon refolded the scroll, eyes hooded. Tell your Triarchs, we will speak. Tell them also that dragonfire cannot be bottled nor sold. Down. Valaro's smile froze. He bowed once more as they disembarked. On the row back, Tyrion rubbed temples. They asked the impossible to anchor the possible. He muttered. Typical Volantine bargaining. We cannot grant slaver free passage. He flicked water from sleeve. But they know Daenerys may scorch their fleet if they offend her deeply enough. So they test appetite. Jon watched clouds roiling above the stepstones, thunder muttering like far drums. We must answer with steel hidden behind open palms. That evening, campfires flickered across Winter's Breath's deck, while sails lowered to half-mast and the convoy hove to in the lee of Blackcliff Isle. The island thrust jagged basalt claws from the sea, topmost ridge crowned by seabird nests and a single stunted olive tree writhing in the gale. Ships anchored in a crescent. Moonlight skittered along wet hawser ropes, and the smell of stew simmering in cauldrons warred with pitch fumes. Within Joan's cabin, parchments littered the map table. Ink tracings of currents, annotations of known pirate coves. Tyrion perched upon a rum barrel, quill tapping teeth. Davos leaned over charts, pointing. Parrot Islet's lagoon is ringed by shoals, the smuggler said. Only shallow draft tenders can pass. That limits what artillery they could hide. But warlocks might rig illusions, make islands look like open water or vice versa. Jon studied the scroll again. We attend with 3 galleys of our own. Unsullied will line shore. No dragons overhead. He glanced at Tyrion. Daenerys agreed to stay with Drogon until I send word. Tyrion set quill aside. She trusts you deeper than she trusts wind and salt combined. Do not make her regret it. A knock. Arya slipped in, silent as lamplight. Ironborn scouts returned, she said. They found an abandoned fishing hamlet on the southern beach, nets slashed, hearths cold, but no sign of ambush. If pirates were stationed, they fled. Or they hide, Davos countered. Stormbreak Cavern cuts through the island. Could house a dozen sloops. Jon reached for his cloak. I'll row ashore at first light, take Ghost and a detachment. Arya, You and a handful slip inland, see if caverns breathe smoke. Grey Worm will keep Winter's breath ready to weigh anchor." Arya's eyes gleamed. "Good. I missed hunting dangerous things." When she departed, Tyrion exhaled. "Your sister walks like a cat, dreaming of murder. That is how she stays alive," Jon said. He stepped to the stern window, staring at horizons smeared purple, and for a breath, he felt again dragonfire curling about him. Warm, inexorable. Somewhere across the waves, Daenerys watched the same moon path, perhaps wondering whether flame alone could temper cruelty. Dawn split the sky with spears of rose and vermilion. Jon's boots crunched on coarse sand as the skiff grounded upon Parrot Islet's shore. Ghost bounded ahead, sniffing driftwood. Unsullied fanned out. Sunlight gleamed on spear tips. Palm fronds rattled. The hamlet indeed lay deserted. Wattle huts collapsed inward. Fishing boats half sunken in tide pools. Crabs scuttled through shattered oars. The silence felt staged, like a theater hastily abandoned. Arya and 4 rangers slipped into the tree line. Jon followed the shoreline north until basalt cliffs reared, their flanks stained whitening with guano. There, he found the cavern mouth, a yawning gullet breathing brine-tainted air. Arya emerged from shadow, cloak dusty. Tracks. 5 men barefoot, 2 wearing sabatons. Scent of burned cedar deeper in. Ghost growled low. Jon signaled 2 Unsullied to flank the entrance. Arya vanished between stalactites. Inside the tunnel, darkness weighed like sodden wool. Jon drew a lantern. Flame revealed arrow slits hacked in stone, angled toward the beach. They had stumbled upon an ancient smuggler stronghold. Sudden shouts echoed. Arya's voice, a single warning cry. Jon surged forward, ghost at heel. Within 30 paces, the passage widened into a vaulted chamber webbed by old scaffolding. Tar barrels stacked 3 high. Warlocks of Qarth in indigo robes wove gestures. Palms igniting miniature green flames. Pirates wielded crossbows. Startled by Arya's blade slicing a throat before they comprehended death, Jon shouted, leaping onto a crate. Lantern tossed aside. Ghost launched at a bowman. The man screamed. Pinned beneath ivory fangs. A warlock flung emerald fire. Jon rolled, felt heat crackle above. Drawing the short sword at his belt, he lunged, slashing through embroidered sleeve into flesh. Blood hissed against conjured flame, and the warlock fell gasping arcane syllables that fizzled with his breath. Another pivot. Arya vaulted off a beam to bury her dagger into a pirate's collarbone. Tar barrels behind them splintered. Stray quarrel striking iron band. Viscous pitch oozed. If ignited, the cavern would become a kiln. Jon parried a scimitar, forced the assailant back against barrel staves. He bellowed, "Leave the pitch!" Unsullied stormed in. Shields battering warlocks aside. Steel met flesh. Ghost dragged prey into shadows. Minutes later, Dean subsided. 11 foes lay dead. 3 wounded huddled. Arya wiped dagger on tunic hem, features impassive. Jon hauled the surviving warlock upright. The man's lips were smeared with blue shade. Shade of the evening. His pupils wide as moons. "Who sent you?" Jon demanded. The warlock grinned, teeth lapis-stained. "Flame and shadow serve coin," he whispered. "Triarchs pay gold for dragon screams." He shuddered. "You will see. The black flame will swallow you." His head lolled. Poison danced in his veins. He convulsed once, died. Arya scowled. Useful as a broken bowstring. Jon studied tar casks. They meant to torch Unsullied when parley began. "Which means parley is a mask," Arya said. "We should sail now." "Strike first." Jon exhaled. "We sail, but not to strike. To reveal." By noon, Winter's breath caught a westerly and rode hard for the rendezvous. 3 galleys accompanied, holds packed with pitch barrels confiscated from the cavern. Proof of treachery. Across rolling swells, ironborn longships kept distance but matched speed, their reavers hungry for plunder yet obeying Jon's restraint. for now. From the quarterdeck, Jon penned a raven to Dragonstone, explaining Warlock's ambush. He urged Daenerys to maintain Drogon upon high currents but remain unseen until signaled. He sealed it with mixed wolf-dragon wax and sent the bird wheeling into pewter skies. Tyrion joined him, hair whipped into a frenzy. Ambush before negotiation, a classic tiger's gambit. They test your caution, hoping to rattle you into rashness. Jon's eyes narrowed. I intend to rattle them instead. He gestured portside where gray islands drifted. The remnants of a stone giant toppled into sea. Parrot Islet's eastern siblings. We will hold council in open water within full sight of their fleet, unsullied in 2 ranks, bows unknocked. Our pitch barrels stacked for all to see. Then we ask what price they place on dishonor. Tyrion's mouth quirked. And if they spout lies thicker than molasses, then we unnerve them with truth. Jon looked aft where Ghost crouched on the poop deck, eyes fixed on the wake. When men speak lies, dragons do not need flame to bear teeth. 2 days later, on a glassy morning over which the sun struggled to assert dominion, the fleets converged near Strait of Thalos. Volantis' grand dramans formed a wall. Gilt-proud tigers snarling, sails dyed crimson and black. At their center floated the flagship Blood Moon Oath, decks festooned with silks and caged exotic birds, whose plumage shimmered like molten coin. Opposite, winter's breath extended gangways to a neutral sandbar barely jutting above tide. Unsullied planted spears in the dune like reeds. Ironborn remained aboard, axes glinting but idle. From each side, 3 envoys approached the sandbar. Jon strode at the head of his party. Tyrion, Davos, Grey Worm. On the Volantine path came Triarch Malaza Terlomar, Tiger of Spice Guilds, draped in copper scales, Consul Raveno Major of the Elephant Party, rotund and oiled. And Commander Ser Jacaerys Chella, Carthene Sellsword leader, wearing lacquered armor, studded with star gem shards. Trailing them skulked a single warlock whose eyes burned violet. Salt spray beaded upon ceremonial garbs. Jon dipped head politely. The Triarchs offered thinner courtesies. King Aegon Targaryen, Malaza purred. We had expected the mother of dragons herself. Is she too lofty to speak with those she wrongs? No. Jon met her gaze. The Queen stands ready to lend voice if yours proves sincere. We begin without dragons, so words may breathe. Raveno snorted. Yet, you bring soldiers. Consult your histories. Parley beaches were once sacred. Jon gestured to Volantine dramans bristling with scorpions. I see no sacred shore, only sharpened stakes. And we found your warlocks hidden with pitch to burn my warriors alive. Explain that. Chella's jaw flexed. Malaza feigned confusion. The warlocks smirked, saying nothing. Jon signaled Grey Worm. Unsullied rolled forward 1 cask, tar seeping. Tyrion spoke. We propose trade of proof. Your apology for ambush in exchange for forbearance. Otherwise we publish your treachery to every free city, and they will wonder what price Volantis places on treaties. Raveno wiped brow. A misunderstanding, no more. Independent corsairs roam these isles. Perhaps they impersonate warlocks, sullying our name. Jon's patience thinned. Corsairs do not chant high Valyrian incantations, or sip shade of the evening. Surrender the warlocks who plotted, pay restitution to the freedmen your slavers chained, and we will guarantee safe harbors. Meow. Malaza's eyes sharpened. Restitution for freed vermin? They are property lawfully purchased. Grey Worm's nostrils flared. Unsullied were once property. We carved freedom from blood. Now free cities tremble when we march. A hush pulsed. Waves murmured. Jon let silence stretch. Property is an illusion weaker than flame. I survived Dragonfire. Do you wish to test if ships do the same? Raveno swallowed, glancing at Chella. The sellsword's hand drifted to pommel. The warlock's gaze glazed in trance, lips moving. Before tension snapped, a thunderous roar swept overhead. All craned upward. Shadows sprawled across sandbar. Drogon wings eclipsing sun, banking in silent circuit. Galwai. His passing stormed banners, rattled chainmail. Jon raised a gloved fist. Drogon veered and climbed. voice trailing thunder but breathing no fire. The message delivered itself. Flame remained sheathed yet omnipresent. Malaza's composure fissured. "You call this negotiation?" "I call it clarity," Jon said. Riveno's jowls quivered. "What terms then, Wolf Dragon?" "First," Jon began, "the Triarchs abolish slave markets outward of Volantis' Black Wall. Freedmen may sail under any banner without seizure. Their magic remains ashore, not afloat." Chella barked laughter. "You ask us to curtail revenue and give away vessels, yet offer what?" "Peace," Jon replied simply, "and alliance against common threats. Quarth eyes your southern sea lanes, slavers of marine hunger for lost markets. Stand with Westeros, and you stand with fire itself. If misused, it devours. If tempered, it forges steel." Malaza opened mouth but paused as revulsion warred with calculation. Riveno turned aside, conferring with aides. Chella watched Drogon still circling like a great black kite riding thermals. The warlock's whisper slithered through air. Fire claims tyrant and child alike. His pupils were twin abyss. "When your queen weeps ash again, your unburnt skin will blister." Jon regarded him. Sadness flickered. Prophecy chained your order to visions of flame. Chains break. He turned back to Triarchs. "Choose. Accept or face a realm that has learned to wield dragons without burning itself." Minutes dragged. Finally, Riveno exhaled in defeat. "We will bring your terms before the Triarch Council. Grant 5 days for reply." 3, Jon countered. "We anchor off Tolos. Send Raven or envoy." "And?" Malaza nodded stiffly. "Very well. Guardian of Realms." She spat the title like sour wine. They retreated, sand crunching. Tyrion loosed a breath. A step. Perhaps not toward harmony, but away from ruin. Grey Worm eyed the departing warlock. "They will plot more." "Yes," Jon said, watching Drogon glide toward a distant updraft. "But they now know Flame has 2 masters, and one of them guards rather than devours." In Telosian waters, the fleet resupplied. Olive-skinned fishers traded barrels of writhing eels for salted pork. Dornish merchants arrived with lemon cakes and gossip. Queen Nymeria Martell endorsed Jones' pact, pledging sandship patrols to secure stepstone trade. Jon penned letters to Sansa detailing progress, asking after harvests. He informed her of Triarch demands, and of Arya's daring infiltration that foiled warlock sabotage. Sansa's reply carried Northwind scent even on parchment. She applauded caution but urged watchfulness. Little birds in Old Town whispered of Euron Greyjoy remnants seeking dragonbinder horns. On the second dusk inside Tolos Harbor, Daenerys arrived astride Drogon. City folk poured onto terraces, craning to witness a queen upon midnight wings. She alighted on Winter's Breath's forecastle, sea spray jeweled in her hair. Jon met her beneath billowing sails, and for a moment neither spoke. Their eyes conveyed storms weathered and storms yet brewing. Tyrion scrambled down ladder, bowing ironically. "Your Grace, you find us alive." A promising sign. Daenerys smiled thinly, and without charred decks. She faced Jon. "I read your raven. You gambled the realm on words." "Nandander." "So did you," he said. "You let me speak without flame." She touched Drogon's scales, affection rippling. The dragon curled tail around mainmast, rumbling content. Sailors kept respectful distance. On the aft deck that night, lanterns swayed as Daenerys listened to accounts of the parley. When Tyrion finished, she traced finger along railing. "Volantis will stall," she predicted. "They will debate each clause until seasons turn. In the meantime, they may rally Lys or Mar in secret." Jon accepted the truth. "Then we show them deeds faster than their tongues. Grain ships already load. Let the Triarchs see our promises feeding Westerosi villages." When small folk speak of stark grain born on Volantine hulls, tigers will learn reputation is coin heavier than silver. Then, Candy, she folded arms. And the slave markets? They may balk, John admitted. But each freedman who sails under their colors makes slavery look less certain. It is a siege of ideals, not walls. She regarded him as though seeing a new forge inside his skin. You sound like Missandei when she dreamt of a peaceful N.E. John looked up at stars. Dreams matter more when dragons stand guard. He hesitated, then spoke softly. I know you fear half measures. I do too. But fire that spares today may convert enemies tomorrow. We rule nothing if we scorch every field. Her sigh trembled. I asked once whether I had come to Westeros to break the wheel or become it. I feared the answer. She stepped closer, standing before Drogon. Seeing you walk unharmed, I realized the wheel might finally yield. But wheels rust slowly. Joan's voice gentled. Then let us oil the axle with mercy, not blood. She laughed quiet. Half sob. Your words weigh like chains of silk. They bind gently yet hold firm. She tilted head. But silk can fray. He met her gaze. Then we weave stronger with each hard choice. Moonlight silvered their breaths as they remained, silent but joined. 3 days later, as the fleet prepared to weigh anchor for Riverrun's grain ports, a swift sloop bore Triarch Velario back from Volantis. He came alone, without warlock guard, and his robes were modest. Upon Winter's Breath's deck he knelt, offering a carved ivory cylinder. Inside lay a charter stamped with 3 tiger seals consenting to John's conditions, worded obliquely, leaving loopholes wide as harbors yet bearing the essence. Abolition of slave trade beyond Volantis' Black Wall, grain fleet dispatch, and inspection councils. Malazza and Raveno had abstained. New Triarch Alaris Tolaris, an elephant merchant, had swung vote. Volantis was split. But seed planted. Daenerys accepted the charter, gaze inscrutable. We honor this accord, she said aloud for crew to hear. Break it, and dragons will bear witness. Velario bowed, then surprised all by drawing a slim blade and slicing his own palm. Blood dripped to planks. By Red God and River Mother both, I bind Volantis to truth, he intoned. May my blood drown whosoever betrays this parchment. He wrapped the cut, stood, pallid. Tyrion muttered to Davos. Either sincerity or theater of the highest order. Jon stepped forward, clasping Valario's forearm. If Volantis keeps faith, Westeros will keep harbor letters open. Trade fosters seeds of freedom. Then Daenerys. Valario's eyes glimmered somewhere between awe and dread when Ghost padded forward. Sniffing blood, he departed swiftly. Daenerys unfurled the charter again, reading each clause until candlelight burned low. At last, she set it aside and faced Jon. I once believed chains could be shattered only by fire. Today I witnessed blood and ink wield equal might. Perhaps the wheel squeals when turned by lighter hands. Jon's tired smile answered. A wheel still turns fastest downhill. We must brace it. Weeks rippled by. Light barges ferried Riverland's grain to war-gutted villages. Volantine captains bragged of new profits on saltfish, rather than flesh. At Casterly Rock, stonemasons discovered forgotten holding cells and freed the last of Cersei's hidden prisoners. North of Winterfell, wildlings aided blacksmiths, forging plowshares from melted swords of fallen whites. But not all progress sang harmony. In the Eyrie, Lord Jon Royce reported sightings of red priests rousing lowborn into cults worshipping fire incarnate. In the Reach, House Tarly's remnants refused dragon wolf charters, calling them heresy. Across the narrow sea, the pureborn of Korth dispatched envoys to Lys seeking alliances. Whispers of obsidian horns, capable of bending beasts, troubled every council. In Dragonstone's great hall, open hearth crackled beneath carved stone dragons. Jon read letters, while Daenerys traced finger across a map. noting pockets of unrest. Tyrion, quill between teeth, tallied casks for winter stores. Grey Worm stood sentinel by door, face unreadable. A raven arrived bearing seal of Citadel Archmaesters. They requested sampling of Jon's blood for study, proof of his immunity to flame. Tyrion chuckled darkly. They'll demand a vial of dragonfire next. Jon folded letter. Knowledge is power. Power can seduce knowledge, Tyrion corrected. Daenerys studied Jon. Will you grant their request? He shrugged. A few drops cost less than rumors. Later, alone upon battlements, Jon pricked his thumb before lantern light. A bead of red surfaced. He watched wind carry its scent. Ghost beside him whined softly. He remembered the Night King's stare, remembered children's ashes beneath kings' landings, shattered bells. The blood on his skin had belonged to kings and peasants both. He wore their weight. Daenerys approached, cloak woven from stark gray and Targaryen black, interlaced. She leaned at parapet. If Archmaesters distill your blood, they may seek to forge men immune to flame. Then we ensure such knowledge serves healing, Jon said. She placed her hand atop his pricked thumb, smearing blood across both. A pact, stronger than seals. In that shared crimson smear flickered dawn's first light. A promise that neither ice nor fire could claim hearts forged of both. Yet far across restless seas, warlocks muttered. Horns were polished, and dragons sleeping in myths stirred beneath lost valleys. Jon and Daenerys watched sun rise over the Black Sea. Storm clouds lingered at horizon yet parted, revealing a corridor of gold where fleets might sail in peace or war, depending on hands that steered. They stood together, guardians of a fragile morning, aware that wheels never ceased turning, but hopeful that, guided by calloused palms and wounded hearts, its spokes might touch the earth a little more gently with each silent revolution. Ka. Rain slanted against the battlements of Dragonstone like a curtain of molten glass, each droplet catching the fire glow from watch torches before shattering on dark stone. Jon Snow, Aegon, still unaccustomed to the name, leaned into the gale, cloak clinging to armor, hair lashing his brow. Far below, the sea writhed, white caps illumined by forked lightning. He tasted brine on the wind, and something acrid, as though storms carried ember scent from lands yet burning. Footsteps approached, soft despite the clamor. Daenerys joined him. Silver gold hair plastered to cheeks, rain beating across scaled black leather. Drogon roosted upon a tower behind her, wings half-mantled like a living thundercloud. The beast's furnace breath rolled in low huffs, warming the night's chill. For a moment, they silently watched the horizon where storm and sea tangled. "You look for ships?" she said. "I look for omens," he replied. "Ships are easier to read." She laid a palm on parapet, slick with water. The Triarch grain fleet, unloaded safely in Maidenpool. Yet rumors spread faster than cargo. Tales of horns that bind dragons, priests who call you the twice-born, and whispers that I am a shepherd who lost her flock. Nendawancho. Rumors are knives, Jon said. Let them dull themselves on stone. Thunder boomed. She turned to him, violet eyes bright. A knife may dull on stone, but flesh is softer. The pureborn of Korth dispatched emissaries to Lys, promising 20 warships and glass candles to any captain who brings them a dragon egg. The free cities tug at loose threads. Her voice dropped. And in Flea Bottom, beggar children cry, "Fire made flesh and chant your name." Jon's jaw clenched. "I never asked for worship. Worship asks for no permission." She peered into Stormfall. "Tomorrow the Northern Lords arrive. You summon them." "I need my family's counsel," he said. "The realm sees unity, but the North listens only to Starks. They must see hope, not just truce." She nodded, though unease lingered. "The Iron Throne remains a wound. Its shadow reaches even here. We will mend wounds with choices that spare rather than sear," he answered. Lightning illuminated her face. Strength and tremor mingled. I fear power that shapes men like glass in fire, and I fear surrendering it." He laid rain-wet fingers over hers. Then we wielded it together. She interlaced their hands upon the stone, water pooling in the hollows of locked palms. Above, Drogon rumbled approval. Morning broke weak and colorless. A fleet of northern longships pierced mist, sails emblazoned with roaring direwolves. At the prow of Winter's Howl, Arya stood with one foot on the rail, hair whipping. Beside her, Sansa Stark leaned into the wind, cloak of ice-blue wool fastened with the silver direwolf brooch once worn by their mother. The harbor thrummed as ropes were cast, gangplanks secured. Grey Worm supervised unsullied lines, while Davos greeted arriving captains with sailor's ease. Ghost loped along the quay, white fur haloed by fog, sniffing arrivals. Jon descended the stair to greet his sisters. Arya leapt the last plank, boots splashing. Sansa followed with measured grace. Jon caught them both in an embrace that smelled of salt and pine. "You've grown gaunt," Sansa murmured. "War trims fat," he said, half-smile. Arya studied the keep's towers. "Dragons perched up there?" "One," Jon answered. "Two hatchlings in the rookery. Daenerys salvaged eggs from the ruin of Dragon Pit. They chirp like furnace sparrows." Sansa raised eyebrows. "Two more dragons." "How many before lords tremble again?" "As many as peace requires," Jon said. Her gaze searched his. Then she exhaled. Inside the great hall, banners of wolf and dragon crossed behind the high table. Northmen, Vale Knights, Reach envoys, and unsullied officers packed benches. Tyrion stood atop a footstool to be seen, reading ledgers aloud. Daenerys occupied the throne-like chair carved from basalt. Jon sat beside her on a simpler oak seat. When hush settled, Jon rose. "You know why we gather," he began, voice echoing. "War scourged our fields and hearts. We must decide how to sow anew. The North remembers, the South rebuilds, and across the sea, fears fester. If we fracture, fear will feast." Lord Glover of Deepwood, gray-bearded and blunt, spoke first. "Will dragons roost over every keep, my lord? Small folk shiver when they glimpse wings." "Then," Jon answered, "dragons defend the realm, not rule it. They will fly only when enemies threaten." Sir Bronzy Yon Royce, armor gleaming like dawn on granite, rumbled, "Enemies breed in shadow." Korth whispers lore of horns that enslave worms. How defend against sorcery? Daenerys rose. "With knowledge. The Citadel studies horns found in Euron Greyjoy's wrecks. If such devices exist, we dismantle them. If we cannot, we will know their pitch and timbre before they sound." Her gaze swept the hall, daring dissent. Sansa stood. "Knowledge also weighs kingdoms. What of harvests? I rode through the riverlands, fields sown but millstones idle. Grain rot will empty larders before winter ends." Tyrion unfurled parchment. "Our Volantine grain fleet covers half the need. Dorne offers citrus and salted lamb, but we lack wagons. Lord Bracken controls surviving wheelwrights, yet demands tax exemptions." Sansa countered, "Then grant him lumber rights in the Blackwater, unworked since wildfire burned loggers' camps. Wheelwrights for oak seems fair." Murmurs died. Tyrion scribbled. Jon inclined head to Sansa. A silent thanks. Arya remained silent until Ser Tolet, representing what remained of the Night's Watch, spoke of wildling raiders stealing sheep along the new gift. Arya leaned forward, voice like quiet steel. "Were they raiders or hungry families? Send grain north, and we buy peace cheaper than spears." So the council wove solutions. Wheelwrights for timber, grain for goodwill, maesters dispatched to study broken horns. Yet beneath every accord lay tension, threads pulled by unseen fingers. When session ended, Jon escorted Sansa through torchlit corridors. "You're sharper than every quill in that hall," he said. She smiled faintly. "The North forges steel on colder anvils." Arya padded behind them. "And tempers blades and dragonfire now." She twirled needle. "Strange days." Sansa halted at an arch where sea wind whistled. "Stranger still. Rumors in White Harbor claim red priests preach that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai reborn, who shall temper Lightbringer in the blood of a dragon queen. Jon's face hardened. Prophecy is a drunken tutor. Ignore it. Others may not, she warned. Faith can sharpen daggers faster than hate. He nodded. We watch their sermons. Gendry's river patrol can intercept priest ships. Thunder rumbled, the sky was clear. They recognized the sound. Drogon's wings thrashing as he took flight for evening hunt. Sansa's eyes tracked the shadow-sweeping moon. Let's hope horns are myths, she whispered. Night-cloaked Dragonstone. In crypt-like passages beneath the keep, Tyrion led an entourage. Samwell Tarly clutching lantern, Gendry in Smith's apron, Archmaester Marwyn resembling a crow in black robes, and Missandei's brother Baelor, recently freed from slaver hold, carrying bundles of parchments. They descended spiral stairs to a cavern where molten veins of obsidian marbled walls. 2 dragon eggs nestled in a basalt cradle, green swirled with bronze, and blue veined with gold. Heat shimmered, faint cracks webbed shells since last moon, pulses of dull crimson light beating beneath. Marwyn knelt, rune-etched rod in hand. Targaryen blood quickens them, he muttered. Yet warmth alone births worms. He dipped rod into oil lamp, brand casting eerie glow. Too soon to wake them, but soon. Gendry wiped soot from brow. If horns are real, dragons will need riders. Metal can't bind magic, but a saddle may bind trust. He displayed a curved stirrup of Valyrian steel, forged from fragments scavenged in King's Landing. Light as copper, hard as dwarven iron. Tyrion admired it. Fire-forged alliances. He turned to Sam. And your records? Sam unfolded scroll. Old Town's vaults mention a binding horn, Dragonbinder, found by Euron, supposedly cracked at the Kingsmoot, killing its blower. The horn we recovered from Silence Wreck is smaller, but etched with similar glyphs. He produced a wrapped object. A black horn no longer than a man's forearm, ribbed in rings. It thrums when near dragons. Marwyn touched its surface. The horn emitted low hum. A warning, he said. If another exists larger, whoever blows it may enslave even Drogon. Tyrion grimaced. Let us hope lungs to wield it fail before they sound. Or we preempt, Gendry added. Melt the horn in dragonfire. Marwyn frowned. Valyrian steel resists such heat. Tyrion sighed. Then we pray to gods old and new that enemies remain breathless. The next fortnight blurred with preparations. Grain barges sailed, road crews repaired Highgarden's aqueducts, and ravens carried charters to lords previously silent. Peace seams stitched quietly. But along those seams, plots nested. One mist-swaddled dawn, a tower guard spotted sails off Dragonstone. 3 lean warships bearing banners of House Tarly, Crimson Huntsman on yellow. Ser Zamel liaised, relief brightening his round cheeks. He believed cousins came to pledge fealty. But when longboats neared, archers loosed flaming arrows at the docks. Fire leapt up rigging, crackling. Unsullied horns brayed. Alarms clanged. Grey Worm marshaled spears. Jon raced to battlements. Flames illuminated attackers. Ragged knights sporting symbols of 7-pointed star painted crimson. The faith militant reborn? Yet armor mismatched. Some carried crossbows of Pentoshi make. From behind crates, a figure raised a bronze horn banded with silver, etched in dawn-colored runes. He blew. Sound split air, an unearthly keening like iron scraped across the spine of the world. Men clapped hands to ears, dragons screamed overhead. Drogon, soaring near the rookery, wheeled widely, roared confusion. The horn's wail vibrated stone, rattling banners, and Jon felt his ribs tremble. Daenerys emerged onto courtyard stones, face pale, lips whispering Valyrian as if urging Drogon calm. The horn-bearer blew again. Drogon faltered, wings jerking as though pulled by invisible reins. Flames puffed from nostrils uncontrolled, scorching ramparts. Jon's pulse thundered. He seized a longbow from a guard, nocked arrow, drew. At that same instant, Arya vaulted onto a crate beside the horn-bearer. Needle flashed. Bronze horn tipped skyward. Jon loosed. Arrow sang, piercing man's throat. He toppled, horn tumbling. Sound died mid-shriek. Drogon regained beat, rising, bellowing wrath. Attackers wavered. Unsullied surged. Ironborn axemen stormed down pier. Within moments, the assault collapsed. Surviving raiders threw weapons into surf. Grey Worm's soldiers bound them. Arya retrieved the horn, lifting it gingerly with a scrap of canvas. Jon joined, heartbeat racing. The horn's surface smoldered ice-cold despite glow of fires. Runes pulsed faint violet. Daenerys landed Drogon within courtyard, stones cracking under talons. She dismounted, stride taut with fury, eyes fixed on the horn. Where did they find it? The bound raiders spat curses, refusing answer. Arya's dagger coaxed one tongue. They were ironborn deserters hired by a red priest named Garael the Torch, who claimed Lightbringer would rise from Dragon's scream. Jon clenched fist. Faith, prophecy, coin. Enemies conjure any blade. Sansa arrived, escorted by guards. She surveyed carnage. The realm will hear horns can enslave dragons again. She said quiet. Fear will spread faster than healing. Daenerys met Jon's gaze. Resolve forging. We must show fear has no purchase. That evening, a procession filed onto the beach. At its head walked Jon, Daenerys, Sansa, Arya, Tyrion, and Sam. The captured horn lay upon a pyre of driftwood soaked in oil. Unsullied formed perimeter. Northmen held torches. Drogon crouched behind Daenerys, wings folding like great cloaks. She spoke, voice steady. This horn blared false dominion. Let flame judge it. Ben Shao. She whispered, Dracarys. Drogon's breath erupted. White-hot roar blanketing pyre. Wood vaporized. Horn bathed in incandescent fury. Runes glowed, cracked, liquefied. When flames ceased, nothing remained but vitrified sand. Crowd breathed relief. Jon raised voice. Let this be answer to shadows. Dragons bow to no horn, only to hearts they trust. Fear cannot chain fire. Hope tempers it. Cheers arose, tentative, then swelling. Sansa whispered to Tyrion. Symbolism tastes sweeter than bread. He tipped imaginary goblet. And costs less grain. Yet not all hearts eased. That night, lightning forked far beyond horizon. South, in waters near Blackwater Rush. A lone raven arrived bearing message from Lord Bracken. The wheelwright caravans were ambushed near Bitterbridge. Corpses charred, wagons overturned. Survivors claimed dark-scaled dragonettes swooped from moonlit clouds, breathing emerald flame. Jon frowned. Drogon was at Dragonstone. Daenerys paced. Hatchlings cannot fly leagues, and their breath is no furnace yet. Tyrion speculated. Warlocks. Or illusions. Marwyn proposed grimmer thought. The doom birthed many scaled terrors. Wyverns, fireworms. Some remain in Valyria's shadow. Perhaps warlocks hatched one, stunted, twisted by spells. Bandendi. Jon ordered ravens to Bitterbridge, dispatched scouts. Arya volunteered to lead a silent cadre. He agreed. Before dawn they rode, Arya wearing cloak of storm-gray ghost loping beside. Sansa watched them depart, face lit by torches. She murmured to Jon, I trust her with every breath. Yet each mission steals something of her light. He answered, She walks darkness so we needn't. Bitterbridge lay stricken. Smoldering wagons lined the Roserad, smoke mingling with river mist. Arya crouched beside a corpse. Horse ribs blackened, hair singed from hide. She touched ash. Fingers came away tinted faint green. Nearby, a sigil board charred into anonymity, but grooves suggested a seven-pointed star. Ghost prowled, hackles raised. From reeds along riverbank emerged a farmer, eyes wild. He babbled. Green fire in the sky, winged serpent, scales like broken glass. 8 horses. Priests laughed, chanting, Lightbringer, Lightbringer, then fled south in boat. Arya's jaw tightened. She collected shards of fused green glass from scorched rut. Wildfire residue. She sniffed, nostrils burning. Warlocks disguised torchfire as dragon breath. That evening she tracked Prince to a river cave. Inside, crates of wildfire vials nestled beside empty horn stands. She counted 3 stands, only 1 horn destroyed. 2 remained. Ghost growled into darkness, where footprints vanished, south toward King's Landing ruins. Arya dispatched messenger bird, then pressed on. Her cadre shadowed priestly footprints through twisted woods until they reached a farmhouse. Inside, red priests cloaked in ember robes harvested venom from caged wyvern hatchlings. Creatures small as hounds, wings leathery, eyes bone-white. Priests smeared venom on arrowheads, while reciting verses of Orlor Dart Dei. Arya's daggers ended their prayers. She freed wyverns. They scurried into night woods. Chirping, she captured 1 priest, Gariel the Torch. Under Needle's bite, he revealed plan. Horns to summon dragons, wildfire to mimic their breath, wyverns to sow terror, forging myth of Azor Ahai rising. Once fear blossomed, faithful would flock. Crowning Garael prophet died. Euron's lieutenants supplied horns, lured by coin and chaos. Arya gagged him, bound wrists, and rode for Dragonstone. Back at the keep, council gathered to interrogate Garael. Under torchlight, his eyes shimmered fanatic gold. He proclaimed a prophecy. When the queen bathes in dragon's blood, Lightbringer blazes anew from her consumed heart. Only then will dawn rise. Daenerys' voice chilled. My heart is not for your forge. Garael spat. You think flame obeys love? Fire feeds only on sacrifice. Jon stepped forward, calm as steel cooling. I survived dragonfire without blood sacrifice. He drew Longclaw, blade glinting. And you will face cold justice. Tyrion interjected. Fanatics die gladly. Better learn their network. He turned to Garael. Who holds the other horns? But Garael bit down on hidden viper tooth, poison frothing. He collapsed. Dead. Silence rang. Sansa spoke. 2 horns roam free. We cannot guard every roof. Daenerys' fists tightened. Then we fly to trumpets faster than they can sound. Marwyn shook head. Flight alone not enough. We must muffle prophecy. If people stop believing horns can rule dragons, blowers lose crowd. Them too. Tyrion paced. Spectacle answered by greater spectacle. Jon met Daenerys' eyes. Trial-by-Dragonfire once proved hope. Perhaps we stage hope again. Show dragons answer kindness, not horns. She frowned. How? Let small folk witness hatchling bonding ceremony, Sam suggested. In Valyria, newborn worms imprinted on caretakers before crowds. If you present hatchlings to orphan children, let them feed and gentle them. Horns seem hollow villainy. Daenerys considered. Risky. Hatchlings bite. Jon's smile small. Children do too, yet kings feed them. So they planned festival. Rebuild Dragon Pit as sanctuary. Invite widows and orphans. Present hatchlings with handlers. Clerics and septons to bless unity of realms. Ravens flew to Old Town, to River Run, to Evenfall Hall. Craftsmen reshaped stone seats. Smiths forged iron netting to contain flight. Sansa organized grain and blankets for attendees. Arya scouted roads for cult agents. Grey Worm drilled unsullied to stand non-threatening posts. Tyrion supervised bards scripting songs extolling courage over fear. Weeks ticked. Hatchlings cracked shells. 1 green bronze. 1 blue gold. Daenerys named them Ashera and Nemor. They squealed. Wings translucent. Jon helped feed them goat's milk. They nipped his gloves. Every dawn Daenerys practiced guiding them in courtyard, singing Valyrian lullabies. Northmen watched in awe. Even hardened Ironborn softened at chirps. Rumors of gentle dragons spread like meadow fire. But horns lurked. On festival eve, King's Landing ruins teemed with laborers, erecting pavilions amid half-cleared blocks. The Red Keep skeleton rose jagged behind scaffolding. Dragon Pit, though scorched, stood ready with fresh limestone. Small folk camped in tents along Blackwater. Excitement, humming. Tyrion stood on a balcony overlooking throngs, wiping sweat. Humanity forgets fear quickly when hope beckons coin and curiosity. Jon chuckled. And pies. Street bakers run ovens hot. Daenerys joined, wearing simple riding leathers, no crown. Bronze scale pendant, gift from Gendry, nestled at throat. Ready? She asked. He nodded. Let's light tomorrow brighter than horns. Night deepened. Unseen by revelers, two hooded figures slipped through alleys, carrying lacquered crates banded in steel. They entered ruins of the Sept of Baelor, where shadows swayed across shattered pillars. There they met a man in crow-black cloak, trimmed crimson. Varys' rumor would call him the Whispering Jackal, spy master of Lys. He paid coin for crates. Inside, the last two horns. One horn lengths of a man's leg, carved from a sea dragon's spine, rune-etched. The other smaller, silver inlaid. Whispering Jackal planned to sound them at dawn while wildfire charges detonated beneath rebuilt dragon pit, forging chaos to crown his backers, Triarch splinters, masters of new slave trade. Yet shadows watched. Arya, masked, trailed them. She counted guards, 8, too many for quick blade. She slipped to roof where Davos River patrol hidden. She signaled lamp thrice. Patrolmen armed with crossbows advanced, silent as sea breezes. Shafts flew. Guards fell. Jackal fled with large horn. Arya pursued. Chase wound through rubble gardens. Jackal ducked into catacomb, ignited lantern. Horn gleamed. Arya cornered him at dead end. A balcony sheared above chasm where wildfire hollowed tunnels. Jackal raised horn. Blue duat. Sound. A deeper, harsher note than the raider's horn. Boomed, reverberating off marble ribs. High above, Drogon circling city froze mid-wing beat. Screamed agony. Hatchlings in dragon pit shrieked. Arya lunged, slashing hamstring. Jackal stumbled, horn clattering. Edge crumbled. He tumbled into abyss, lantern shattering. Flame whooshed. Arya snatched horn, retreated as ceiling groaned. Catacomb collapsed behind her. She emerged bruised. Horn singed but intact. Patrol escorted her to Red Keep. Jon met her in courtyard. Drogon landed hard, trembling. Daenerys soothed him, singing. Hatchlings huddled. Arya thrust horn forward. Found. Another smaller still inside crate. She spat blood. Saboteurs planted wildfire barrels under dragon pit benches. We diffused half. Others remain. Grey Worm dispatched sappers. Gendry smiths yam spring-loaded caps designed to ignite. Marwyn sealed horn in lead box lined with dragonglass dust. Tyrion moaned. Festival in shambles? Jon shook head. We proceed. But horn shone shattered. Wildfire doused. Bam? Daenerys smiled fierce. Turn threat into triumph. Dawn rosy. Dragon pit thronged. Small folk sat on freshly mortared tiers. Northmen, reach folk, Dothraki mingled. Septons and red priests both present, each chagrined by the other. Jon strode center of arena clad in simple leather, long claw unsheathed only for ceremony. Held point buried in earth, a sign of no aggression. Daenerys entered riding Drogon. Applause thundered. She dismounted, carrying hatchlings perched on gauntleted arms. Their tiny wings fluttered, tongues flicking. Tyrion and Sansa bore 2 crates. They opened lids. Inside lay horns. One bronze melted, the other intact. Marwyn stepped forward, holding lead box tongs. Jon addressed crowd. These horns were forged to enslave dragons, to enslave hearts with fear. Last night men sought to use them to shatter this city anew. He drew the intact horn. Murmurs rippled. Let fear see its face broken. He placed horn on stone plinth. Daenerys commanded, Dracarys? Ashera and Nemor exhaled fledgling jets, weak yet hot. Drogon added breath. Controlled blast. The horn melted. Runoff pooling. Crowd gasped, then roar acclaim. Sansa scattered handfuls of grain into sky. Children ran to catch seeds, laughing. Jon knelt, invited orphans from crowd. They approached, uncertain. He guided a boy's small hand to stroke Ashira's snout. The hatchling chirped, nuzzling. Cheers blossomed. Red Priest Kinvara stepped forward, lips parted as if to preach prophecy. But seeing children fearless at Dragon's side, she bowed silent. Septon Eustace offered blessing. May flame warm, not burn. Dothraki Khalazar pounded chests, chanting respect. Unsullied lowered spears in salute. From balcony, reporters, scribes, bards, maesters inked furiously. Tales would spread. Dragons gentled by innocence. Horns shattered. Wildfire quenched. After ceremony, Jon and Daenerys retreated to platform overlooking pit. Sun-bathed, ruins gold. Tyrion approached, grin broad. I've never seen fear so thoroughly humiliated. Daenerys kissed hatchlings' heads. Let horns become legend only for fools. Jon folded arms, surveying faces below. There will be more fools, he said. Always. Sansa agreed. Ascending steps, but each time they stand smaller. Grey Worm reported wildfire barrels neutralized. Arya joined, face bruised yet bright. Ghost rested at feet. Marwyn announced study of melted horn revealed alloy unknown. Black ice interlaced with Stygian glass. May take lifetimes to replicate, he said, and we'll spend those lifetimes ensuring no one does. Daenerys exhaled. Then tomorrow we ride north, show Winterfell these hatchlings. Let world see dragons as guardians. Jon nodded. And rebuild Night's Watch as wardens of peace. Tyrion snorted. A watch that guards living from fear instead of dead from death. Evening painted sky in crimsons, echoing Targaryen sigil. Campfires lit streets where children sang new tune. Lyrics praising dragon queens and wolf kings. Merchants hawked pastries shaped like scaled eggs. And smiths hammered bells in honor of Horn's death. But amid jubilation, a raven landed on Jon's wrist. Scroll bore seal of citadel. He unfurled. Conclave convened, urgent. Reports of shadow rising in ruins of Valyria. Obelisks whirl with flame. Winged shapes larger than any drake sighted. Line at bottom. Advise immediate investigation by guardians. Jon handed letter to Daenerys. Her eyes shimmered. The past spits. Ghosts. He looked to horizon where dusk swallowed sea. Then we chase ghosts. Wheel still turns. She smiled. Not resigned, but ready. Together, its spokes will heal rather than rend. Thunder distant. Not from storms but from Drogon launching skyward. Hatchlings screeched joyous. Below, people lifted faces toward dragons, and saw not doom but dawn. Ka. Rain had long since surrendered to a damp hush when Dragonstone's garrison lanterns guttered in the pre-dawn dark. But Jon Snow found the keep awake and restless. Unsullied clicking quick orders on the walls. Northmen tightening girths on destriers. Maesters sorting cases of grease-sealed vellum for hurried study, and cooks everywhere shoving bundles of hardtack into sea bags. Dawn's call would send 2 expeditions in opposite directions. One east by Carrack to haunted Valyria, one north by road to Winterfell. And the fortress pulsed like a single lung that had forgotten which breath to hold. Jon moved among his people in muted armor. No king's sigil. Only the stark direwolf stitched beside the 3-headed dragon. Wool dark with oil against the spray still drifting over the parapets. Each time a soldier bowed, he returned the gesture with a brief clasp of forearm. More sailor than sovereign, until at last he reached the outer court where Daenerys inspected the saddle rig now fitted to Drogon's shoulders. The dragon crouched docile, but his red-gold eyes tracked every torch with predatory interest. Stirrups trimmed. Gendry ducked away from the harness, wiped sweat on a blacksmith's rag. Valyrian buckles cooled fine, no warp after last test burn. Thank you, Daenerys said, then added softly. If it fails over the smoking sea, I will have words with you. Gendry blanched. Then I'll pray it holds, your grace. Jon gripped the smith's elbow. It will? And if it doesn't? He glanced up at Drogon's vast folded wings. I've seen her land without a saddle. He jumps easier than flames licking stirrup leather, Gendry muttered, but left to oversee packing of spare rivets. Daenerys straightened, eyes bright under starlight, not yet chased by dawn. Scouts report steam vents near the Demon Road are louder than a fortnight ago. Something stirs under the ash. Or someone, Jon said. If the warlocks learn to lure beasts from the doom, we must know. She brushed hair from her cheek, pale strands sticking to salt-damp skin. Marwyn insists lore speaks of deep spawn, winged fireworms older than Valyrian. He believes the quake that split Valyria 3 moons back may have opened their caverns. We bring him to see, Jon replied. And if he's wrong, the Citadel will at least fear fewer ghosts. He surveyed the bustle. Stark banners march shortly. Sansa leads wagon trains toward the gift. Arya rides ahead to clear bandits. Northern lords will look to her if horns sound again. She will need my name behind hers. Daenerys turned, step bringing them shoulder to shoulder. And I will need you in Valyria. You will have me. He glanced at Drogon, then back. The hatchlings? In the rookery with Missandei and Samwell. Sam has a dozen scribes ready to tally each heartbeat. They grow faster than expected. Ashera's already singed a stable roof. Jon smiled. Small. Dragons eat stories as well as goats. The bell atop the sea gate tolled the hour. 3 slow notes that pried open the night. Across the courtyard, Grey Worm raised a torch. Unsullied answered with spear pounds. Sailors lowered gangways toward the tide-washed landing where 2 ships, Winter's Breath refitted for ash storms, and Dawn's Grace laden with maester crates, rocked impatient. Cold light sheeted the horizon, a bruise turning silver. Daenerys laid a gauntleted hand on Drogon's scale. We depart on the 3rd bell. Tell your sister goodbye. Now. Jon lingered a beat, then bowed and strode back through the arch, where Northmen were mustering. In a side cloister, Sansa stood with parchment rolls bound by wolf-red string, giving last instructions to a circle of bannermen. Torrhen Karstark, Maya Stone of the Vale, Lyanna Mormont already scolding a guard twice her height. She looked war-worn and regal, in a fur-lined mantle that still smelled faintly of Winterfell smoke. You leave before we sail, Jon said. Road's long, Sansa answered, dismissing her captains with a nod. When they slipped away, she caught Jon's wrist. Remember what we spoke. Peace is grain on wagons, not pageantry here. Bring us knowledge, not more ashes. He squeezed her hand. I will. Keep the North strong until we return. And you keep our queen. Sansa said quietly. Storms will tempt her. The storms tempt us both. Just come back, she whispered. He wanted to say more, but hoofbeats exploded at the gate. Arya mounted on a black courser, cloak already dusted from a pre-dawn ride. Ghost looked beside. She reined in near them, face smudged, eyes alight. Bandit traces south of the gift, she said. Old Hornwood Tower sheltering freed Sellswords turned raiders. I'll thin them before wagons pass. Jon raised eyebrows. Not alone. Rangers go with me, she answered. Then softer, dragons in Valyria, wolves in the north. We each hunt our ghosts. She dismounted just long enough to grip Jon around the shoulders, swifter than any hug, then vaulted back. Guard your queen, brother. He watched sister and direwolf vanish through drizzle until torchlight swallowed them. Then he strode for the pier. Sunrise tasted of sulfur when Winter's Breath cleared Dragonstow's lee and angled southeast across ship-black water. The air warmed unnatural as they neared the smoking sea. Gulls vanished, replaced by shrieking ash terns that rode geyser thermals. Jon stood on the foredeck in oilskin cloak, scanning each plume that hissed from fissured waves. Behind him, Marwyn the mage clutched a bronze astrolabe, muttering calculations, while Samwell Tarly attempted to transcribe the muters, though ink kept flecking on the page from tremors below. Tides here shift without moons, Marwyn grumbled. Underwater faults breathe like bellows. Sea rises. Falls. Beware false shallows. Helm is using lead line every quarter hour, Jon said. How close before we see Valyria's ragged coast? Coast sleeps beneath fumes. Marwyn pointed east where a horizon blob thickened. That haze masks towers taller than Dragonstone. You will smell obsidian when we near. Obsidian already wrestled with salt in Jon's nostrils. He gripped rail. Any sign of sails? None. The maester lifted a glass, a lens scratched by decades. If warlocks reached the peninsula, they came by skiff or wyvern saddle. Jon glanced upward, Drogon's sword to starboard, wings carving clouds. Daenerys perched in saddle, glaive at her back, scanning sky. 2 Dothraki blood riders flew behind on smaller saddle rigs, fixed to chain harness lines drooping from Drogon's flank. Innovation Gendry called sky hitches that let attendants ride partly in his slipstream without controlling him. Jon did not like them. One jolt could fling a man. But Daenerys insisted if horns sounded she needed blades at her side. Storm hour passed. Noon's heat grew suffocating. The sea steamed. Pitch seams in deck sprayed black bubbles. Sailors soaked canvas with brine. Geyser spines erupted, some spitting shards of shining stone. A shard clanged off starboard bulwark like a bell note. Obsidian rain, Sam muttered. Gods help the fish. At last, the mists rent, revealing a jagged continent of glassy ridges. Towers half-melted twisted toward sun like fingers still clawing for breath. Lava channels pulsed ember orange, cutting valleys where ruins slumped. An ancient aqueduct spanned a chasm, its arches fractured yet stubbornly upright. Ship bells clanged. Jon's eyes narrowed. On a basalt promontory stood 3 figures in indigo robes, staffs tipped by crescent blades. Even at distance he recognized warlock silhouettes. Spindly, motionless, as though chiseled from midnight. Battle stations, he ordered. Unsullied lined rails. Crossbowmen knocked heavy quarrels. But the warlocks raised no horns. Instead, they lifted palms toward the sea and chanted. Sky darkened. Furnace gusts. Slap sails. A whirlpool yawned beneath winter's breath. Hard a port. Helmsman spun wheel. Wood shrieked. Hull listed. Water spiraled down a throat that glowed green within. Wildfire? Jon's stomach lurched as deck tilted. Kegs ruptured, rolling. A thunderclap overhead. Drogon diving. He spewed blue-white flame that clashed with mists in a shriek of steam. Jaws of whirlpool slackened. Warlocks staggered but renewed chant. One brandished a dark horn. Smaller than the collapsed jackal horn, yet rune-bright. Got. Jon snatched crossbow from a guard, leveled. Wind buffeted. He squeezed. Bolt whistled true, punching warlock's chest. The man toppled from cliff, horn tumbling into abyss with him. Whirlpool collapsed. Sea heaved upward, smashing into ship but riding her. Daenerys circled once, then dropped low across the promontory. Drogon raked claws through remaining warlocks. Ash burst. When he banked away, only scorch marks remained. Winter's breath limped near a sheltered cove at island's edge. Jon ordered anchors. Maesters swarmed over damaged spars. Grey Worm prepared landing skiffs. Afternoon, clouded red. Jon, Daenerys, Grey Worm, Marwyn, and a score of unsullied disembarked onto black sand that hissed under boot soles. Heat radiated upward, wavering air. Obsidian shards jutted like teeth. Drogon perched on a cliff to watch. Marwyn consulted parchments. The place of the Hornforge lies inland. Legends claim priests of the 14 Flames tempered dragonbind horns in magma-choked forges using wyvern bone. Grey Worm scouted ahead with vanguard. Paths ribboned between slag hills. They found melted stairs leading to an amphitheater of onyx. In its center, a forge basin still glowing faintly, though no smith had stoked it in centuries. Around edges lay skeletons of colossal serpents, vertebrae fused by heat. Marwyn's breath caught. Deep spawn indeed. Daenerys touched a vertebra half her height, palm reverent. Not dragon, not wyvern. Scale pattern suggests. A roar-split cavern. From tunnel mouth uncoiled a beast, longer than Drogon. Scales black, but veined neon green. Eyes milky. 2 withered wings sprouted mid-spine. They flapped limply. Creature dragged itself, chest aglow with internal fire. Warlock chains bit into neck, disciples guiding it until battle earlier left them ruins. Jon drew Longclaw. Fireworm. Beast belched gout of sickly flame. Unsullied shields melted like wax. 3 soldiers' screams ended in moments. Drogon shrieked furious, launched from cliff into cavern. But ceiling cramped. He banked, exhaled pure red death that met green fire in clash of colors. Shockwave hammered ruin walls. Marwyn and Sam ducked behind crucibles. Daenerys saw chains trailing from Worm's throat to a shattered keel of bronze. Evidence warlocks had hauled it like a siege mammoth. She sprinted along rim, confusing Jon, but he followed. Together they reached winch built on rusted axle. Lever jammed. Daenerys drew dagger. Severed chain. Worm's head snapped free. Creature shook, disoriented. Drogon lunged, biting its unarmored nape. Green ichor sprayed sizzling pits. The fireworm writhed, tail barbs smashing pylons that toppled near Jon. Grey worm hurled spear, it buried in soft underjaw. Jon vaulted rubble, plunged Valyrian steel through beast's eye. Worm convulsed, internal fire guttered. Drogon pumped flame until flesh sloughed. Finally, creature collapsed, steam plume rising. Silence returned, broken only by drip of molten rock. Daenerys touched Jon's shoulder, both panting. Horns forged here. They meant to tether beasts like this. Then dragons. Marwyn knelt by the forge, pried loose a blackened tablet. Glyphs. Instructions. If we destroy them, knowledge dies. Tyrion, arrived with second landing wave, wheezed. Copy it first, then toss into sea. Jon nodded. Sam, transcribe. Then we bury the forge. Workers toppled crucibles, collapsed support columns. Drogon breathed. Rock melted. Ceiling cavern in glass tomb. When they retreated to shore, dusk had set flame to sky. Behind them, the forge coast shuddered once. Perhaps final sigh of horn ghosts. Return voyage bore little wind. Rowers sweated through nights. On second dusk, they sighted sails trailing. 4 Carthene yellow latons. But seeing Drogon overhead, they veered north. Tyrion quipped. Merchants' hunting bones now hunt new routes home. Jon took vigil near prow, mind turning to north. Sansa's wagons, Arya's raids, horns still unaccounted. He felt realm balancing on knife carved from prophecy. Daenerys joined him, trailing fingertips along rail. We saw darkness older than Targaryens, she said. Yet the forge is ash. Horns may yet exist, Jon warned. But with forge gone, they cannot temper more. She sighed. People will always craft chains. Then softer. Perhaps we craft keys faster. He clasped her hand. No more words. At Winterfell walls, snow fell again. Early autumn flurry that dusted battlements white. Sansa stood among masons setting new gate timbers. Arya rode through gate at head ragged prisoners, bandits disarmed. Sansa raised brow. Arya dismounted. Caught them before they torched Hornwood granary. I'll try them tomorrow. Try them fairly, Sansa said. Fairly, Arya echoed, though eyes glinted. That evening, Raven arrived from Citadel. Report summarizing Valyrian findings. Horns ruin. Beasts slain. Sansa read near hearth. Relief warmed. She penned reply. North stable. Grain wagons reached last hearth. Night's watch recruiting wildlings for garrison beyond wall. No horns sounded. Continue forging hope. Raven launched into wind. Weeks later, King's Landing thrummed for coronation not of a king or queen but of a charter. The Dragonwolf Compact ratified by lords from Bear Island to Dorne. They assembled in a rebuilt hall open to the sky. Iron throne melted into ingots, replaced by twin seats of simple oak. Between them a round table carved with map of 7 kingdoms, signifying no man sat above. Jon and Daenerys stood before throng. Hatchlings circled overhead, wingspan thrice a man now. Drogon roosted on Red Keep's skeleton. Tyrion read oath. Woo, guardians of realm, vow no fire shall fall on city save in its defense. Vow each decree weighed by small council of all regions. Vow slaves shall find no chain upon Westerosi soil. Vow horns broken, forges buried, knowledge shared. Lords signed. Small folk watching from latticed courts hurrahed. Sansa, robed in snow gray, stepped forward. North swears loyalty to Compact, so long as Compact keeps faith. Jon answered, faith kept by deeds. Arya perched on parapet, smile rare. Gendry stood behind forging guild banner. Sam held bound volume titled, The Book of Broken Horns. Marwyn recorded each vow in smoke ink. When last seal impressed, bell tolled. Daenerys unsheathed dagger, cut palm. Jon did same. They pressed hands together over stone basin carved from forged glass, mixing blood. Ancient rite of Valyria twisted into vow of guardianship, not rule. Clouds broke. Sun rivered golden across ruins, touching glassy towers yet standing. People raised faces, tears in eyes. Daenerys whispered, a dawn indeed. Jon replied, may it last. But far to the east, beyond blasted peninsula, smoke curled anew from dead volcano. A silhouette of warlock ship bobbed near jagged coast, pennants in tatters. On deck, gaunt figure limped, clutching scroll stolen from broken forge before cavern collapsed. Beside him sat an egg, larger than a man's skull, scales the color of midnight sky veined star-white, pulsing faintly. Warlock lifted scroll to wan light, lips cracking smile. Wind moaned through shattered rigging, like distant horn yet to sound. Ah, K. Ka. Wind clawed across the evening sea, flinging salt into the rigging where tattered pennants snapped like bones in winter. On the lone deck of the wreck scavenged caravel breath of the black god, Yorith Zar Pan, last seer warlock of the blue mummer cabal, bowed his head over the luminous egg, sheltering its star-white veins in a square of shadow. Between crumbling teeth, he recited a splintered verse of High Valyrian, whose cadence rose and fell to the breathing of the waves. Nogros Giorepagon. Yehikagon. Dromor Yehikagon Teforio. Gamoriot Teuka. From ash be given birth, from fire be given form. Each syllable shivered the deck. Lanterns flickered. The sailors, Carthene deserters, Lysine cutthroats, and 2 brazen priests of Errolor, bought with dream vine and coin, kept wide of the warlock. They had seen him whistle a man's skull empty by murmuring through broken horn fragments. They would not test this darker rite. Below planks the hull wept, yet Yorith felt strength in the wood. It was carved from black cedars that drank brimstone water on Morkacha's volcanic slopes. The timbers hummed faint with old dragonfire. Perfect cradle for the thing that waited inside the egg. A cosmoling worm, neither dragon nor wyvern, promised by the blue flame in the deep waste of the 14 volcanoes. Yorith's hand hovered. Heat radiated like midsummer noon. Spines of starlight crawled beneath mottled shell. His voice grew louder. Es indroro morgales, es androro. All chains must die. All chains must rise. A crack traced across the egg's apex. Fissures spidered, releasing a hiss reminiscent of molten glass striking ice. Yorith's pulse hammered. He slit his palm with obsidian shard. Black blood dripped, seeping into cracks. The egg pulsed. Feather-fine scales parted, birthing a blinding radiance. From within, a wing curled. More membrane than flesh, glowing with constellations as though night sky itself had hatched. The priests gasped. One knelt, eyes reflecting cosmos. Erlor's child, he whispered. Yorith corrected him. No god spawn. Ours. Dain. The warlock took up the smaller horn, the last unbroken casting from Valyria's Hornforge, and pressed it to his cut mouth. He did not blow. He whispered through it, shaping syllables that bled life from vowels. The newborn creature lifted its triangular head. Silver eyes like frosted sapphires. Its first breath exhaled a plume of cold flame, turquoise and silent, that rhymed the deck with glassy frost. A sailor screamed as the chill caught his boots, fusing him to planks. He hacked frantically at ice until Yorith snapped a finger. The frost reversed, flash melting into steam that flayed flesh from bone. The ship's crew fell to their knees. "Pledge," Yorith ordered. They did, trembling. The priests bowed deepest, chanting new fire hymns to this starworm. Yorith exhaled, feeling a tremor of power unlike the crude horn songs that bound Drogon for a heartbeat at Dragonstone. This hatchling obeyed more willingly. It felt kinship to the void, not to earthbound flame. It would not balk at chains of sound. And it would grow quickly. He stepped to stern rail, peered east. Distant thunderheads pulsed red over King's Landing, sunrise reflecting off the new capital's scaffolding. Over that city flew 3 dragons, 1 adult, 2 juvenile. Their silhouettes darkened dawn. "Soon we strike," Yorith crooned. "When star meets sun, dragons kneel." He whistled. The cosmic worm slithered across deckboards, tail leaving frostprints. It perched upon the warlock's shoulder, weight no heavier than fear. Yorith turned to the priests. "Ready the Dreadwicks. We sail the Blackwater at ghost tide. Wildfire caches slumber beneath the city still. Cersei's final bequest." His grin showed char lines on gums. "We wake them beneath the Dragon Queen's cradle of hope." A priest paled. "If the wildfires burn the city, shall witness her guardians fail." Yorith sealed the egg-shattered halves in silver netting, hung them at belt. "From ashes, they will beg a new savior. We shall provide." He stroked the worm's head, it purred. Behind them, thunder boomed deeper. Not storm, but wing beats. The warlock lifted horn to lips and played 3 notes. Scale ascending minor. Call of the blue mummer cabal. In distant gloom, echoes answered. 2 more ships emerged, hulls sheathed in pale ore, etched by green sigils, stolen Volantine designs. Their masts bore rag banners, tiger eyes crossed by crescent moons. Yorith felt that not all allies loved him, but gold and terror welded loyalty tighter than blood. The flotilla angled west. Across the narrow sea, rebuilt King's Landing exhaled industry. Markets bustled under walls where lime mortar still steamed. The Red Keep skeleton had become a forest of scaffolds, its throne room replaced by an open-air stone forum where artisans carved the 7 Kingdoms map into the round council table. Here the first assembly of the Compact's public conclave gathered, 1,000 voices representing guilds, free companies, septas, red priests, wildling chiefs, and Braavosi bankers. They argued quotas and roads, tariffs and floodgates, not realizing doom skulked across water. Jon Snow entered the forum's colonnade, wearing weather-scarred leather, gray wool mantle, no crown. Cheers followed. Some still called him king, though he answered only to guardian. Daenerys walked at his side in crimson cloak, lined with dragon scale plates, hatchlings circling above. She listened to each petitioner. Dornish vintners seeking wine tariffs lowered, Iron Island's envoy demanding salvage rights from wreck fields. Tyrion tottered behind, scribbling. "Every voice a flute," he muttered. "And me expected to orchestrate." Jon clasped his shoulder. "Bracken Miller's next. Remember, lend grain, take timber shares." Tyrion rolled eyes. "Your sister's scheme, yes." They stepped before dais where Lord Bracken awaited. Negotiations began, but Jon's attention snagged on a sensation. Faint tinnitus, like distant horn, echo. He rubbed ear. Daenerys felt it too. She twitched. Hatchlings shrieked overhead, wings flaring. Drogon, roosting atop half-finished keep, rumbled, scales shivering. The forum hushed as wind shifted. Jon looked seaward. A haze lay beyond river mouth. Unnatural ripple of heat, though morn was cool. Grey Worm appeared at stair, voice low. Scout ravens report sails with unknown banners entering Blackwater Bay. 5 vessels. 1 dredge barge towing. Among dredge pawing submerged frames. Then Piranda. Tyrion's quill snapped. Frames for what? Marwyn, standing near, paled. Wildfire dredges, he murmured. They seek Cersei's shadow stockpiles buried by rubble. Daenerys' jaw clenched. Send warnings through city canals. Evacuate lower wards. Jon turned to Grey Worm. Signal North Garrison, close river chain. Ironborn patrols, barricade mouth. Horn blast thundered, nearer, pressing at chests. Citizens screamed as hatchlings spiraled in agitation. Drogon launched, bellowing. On a bluff outside walls, the warlock fleet drew closer. Bows unveiled ballista arms capped by obsidian-tipped harpoons coated in shimmering liquid fire. From the lead deck, Yorth raised his hybrid horn and blew a second time. In the city, every dragon felt the tug. A hook inside marrow. Drogon roared, but wings faltered. Ashera and Nemor whirled, confused. Balconies trembled. Jon jumped onto parapet, shouting at Grey Worm to ready water trebuchets. New engines hurling seawater to smother wildfire. At river chain, ironborn longships braced. The first enemy cutter hit shallow, unleashed volley. Harpoons streaked green. One struck a longship mast. Liquid fire erupted, devouring wood, sailor, rope alike. But Gendry Smiths had coated chain towers with sand-lime slurry. Flames sputtered. Yorth directed dredge barge. Slaves unfurled weighted nets, lowered into depths. They trawled for wildfire amphorae spilled after Baelor Sept's ruin. Tons of green glass slept under silt. If raised and shattered, harbor would become cauldron. On the parapet, Jon vaulted onto a warhorse, armor still muddy from Valyria. Open river gates, saddle outriders, he told Davos. We meet them before nets rise. Daenerys landed near him. Eyes glowed violet with fire and fury. I fly. Horn may tug, but I resist while wings beat. She snapped reins, vaulted onto Drogon's neck, beckoning hatchlings. Guard the docks, Guardian. She soared. Horn sounded thrice now, resonance deeper, nearer. Drogon's arse flailed. He fought but followed her will toward bay. The cosmic worm, perched on Yorith's mast, answered with glacial shriek, exhaling turquoise frost that turned sea spray to glittering daggers. Drogon wheeled, flame jetting but sputtering as Horn stole breath. Ashera and Nemor dove, heads thrashing. Daenerys sang in High Valyrian, voice pressing love and command through storm of sorcery. Edzof, Abra, Gentis Doharos. Fly, children. Break the chains. The hatchlings shrieked back, small throats birthing pure gold flame that lanced the horn's call for a heartbeat. Drogon steadied, arrowing straight at warlock ship. Yorith lifted hand. Cosmic worm spat frost to parry flame. 2 elements meeting, boiling fog. On city pier, Jon led 50 cavalry out gate, hooves drumming. Arya darted from alley, vaulting onto saddle behind him. She had ridden south overnight. Bandits routed, she said. Figured you'd start bigger fight. They galloped along water road toward chain tower. Ghost raced flank, fur rippling. Ironborn Captain Yara Greyjoy waved from flagship, ready to cut chain at signal. But dredge nets already surfaced, bulging. Crates packed with wildfire rolled. Priests smeared tar on lids, chanting. Jon saw. We can't reach them from shore. Arya pointed to half-sunken skiff. We can. They veered, leapt onto rocking vessel. Davos had joined with 4 ferrymen, oars ready. They rowed hard toward dredge. Flaming arrows hissed overhead. One grazed Arya's sleeve. She snuffed it calmly. On deck of dredge, Yorith's priests tipped first crate toward water, intent to send casks drifting to city's wharves, where currents would beach at high tide. Arya loosed throwing knife. It buried in Priest's eye. Crate toppled backward, crashing and igniting deck in green conflagration. Slaves screamed. Flames drew Cosmic Worm's attention. It shrieked, wingtips sprouting larger as if feeding on chaos. Drogon seized moment, raked horns. His talons rent Warlock mast. Yorith stumbled but blew horn a final enraged note. Wave of compulsion struck Drogon. The dragon faltered, wings cramping. He angled into dive that would smash harbor piers. Daenerys yelled. She slashed harness strap, leapt from saddle at last instant, rolling across dredge planks yards from Jon's skiff. Drogon plowed into water, sending tidal blast over docks. Jon shouted her name. She rose, soaked, eyes blazing. Together they rushed through wildfire smoke to drum Yorith's sorcery quiet. On forecastle Yorith stood blood-slick, Cosmic Worm coiled around horn. He lifted free hand, and frost flared, turning planks to mirror glass where Jon's boots slid. Arya darted left, needle flashing. Frost arrowed from Wyrm, grazing her thigh. Jon raised Longclaw. Fireworm Frost collided with Valyrian steel, exploding shards. He advanced. Daenerys came other side, bare blade dripping sea. Yorith hissed. Your reign ends in green hellfire. Bow and I spare your city. Daenerys laughed. A raw sound. A queen who bent flames will not bow to echoes. She hurled dagger. Yorith deflected with horn rim. Arya sprang, hamstrung his knee. Warlock staggered into railing. Cosmic Worm hissed, fanning wings. Jon lunged. Long claw pierced Horn's body. Shockwave rippled. Wyrm screamed. Frost plume shattered deck planks. The horn imploded. Fragments spinning into Wyrm that shriveled like dying star. Collapsing in itself until only ice dust remained. Yorith gaped at stump of instrument. Arya slit his throat in one swift pull. Wildfire blazed unchecked across dredge. Davos shouted, "Blastul! Take harbor!" Jon grabbed Daenerys. "Jump!" They leapt to skiff as Arya followed, ghost barking. Davos ordered oars. They pulled away. Yara signaled. Iron chain dropped, severing enemy retreat. Wildfire reached tar barrels. An emerald explosion shattered dredge, curling bay water into towering wave that quenched flame, yet tossed stiff like driftwood. Jon clutched Daenerys. Arya clung to gunwale. The wave surged into piers, but dissipated against seawalls, reinforced by north-forged blocks. Citizens cheered from parapets. Above, Drogon resurfaced, roaring triumph, though wings singed. Hatchlings circled, unbound now, dancing across smoky dawn. Flames died, bay steamed. On city forum, Tyrion exhaled. "Add hornproof levy to tariff code," he muttered, and scribbled. Days later, King's Landing hosted a quiet vigil for sailors lost. Jon stood on waterfront, where blackened shards of horn lay in display under glass. Warning to future sorcerers. Daenerys joined, arm bound where frost burned. "Warlocks will crawl from some other hole," she said. "We patch holes faster," Jon replied. She watched children skipping stones. "Hope is stubborn. So are we." She leaned against him. Hatchlings snoozed on balustrade. Waves lapped, gentle for once. Beyond eastern horizon, 14 flames smoldered. But their forge lay entombed. And though prophecies stirred, the realm found dawn in small moments. A freeborn woman buying bread with coin earned. A mason singing atop scaffold. A boy carving toy dragon and naming it Peacebringer. Jon looked east, hand resting over heart where flame and ice met. The bell of the forum tolled midday, echoing across city, still healing. Guardians answered call, ready to debate next charter. Next bridge, next field to seed. Wheel still turned, yes, but its rim touched ground softer with each revolution, guided by calloused palms willing to bleed, yet refusing to burn. And somewhere in skies above, 3 dragons wheeled. One mighty, 2 growing, not as conquerors, but as vigilant stars over a realm shaping itself anew. Horn songs broken and silenced. Promises whispered, louder than wildfire's roar. The world exhaled, uncertain but alive. Poised between twilight and sunrise, and for the first time in an age, dawn's light felt earned.